comics writers for School Run. Sir Macoy is the comic writer for School Run, illustrated by R.D. Aquino, and Aswang Hai, illustrated by Saidan Didil. Bambi Eloriaga-Amago is the writer for Comics by Imagination. She wrote Cautionary Tales from a Filipino Childhood, Doobie-Doo Asks, both illustrated by Amago, and co-wrote Doobie-Doo What You Up To, co-written with her son, Jacob Amago, again illustrated. So they're a family horse. And so again, reviewing the workshop mechanics, divided into two parts. We'll begin with comics writing and collaboration, and then we'll move into pitching and backers. So yes, and without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Sir Macoy for the first part of our workshop.
Okay.
Kung gusto niyo po mag-mic, probably.
Ayun.
Mic for the recording.
Okay, there you go. Hello, I'm Macoy. First things first, I'd like to ask you guys some questions, get to know the people here. How many of you here are interested in writing comics? Okay, almost all. And how many are writers who just write? Okay, and how many are writer artists? Okay. And how many are artists only? Oh, interesting. We got a good mix. Okay, fun. How many of you have been published? Okay, published like the traditional published, like mainstream published. Okay, we have one. Comics, sir? Children's books. Okay, cool. Pinsan ni comics. How many have been published, like self-publishing, zines, online? Okay, good number then. Okay, so thank you for your interest. Thank you for coming. My name is Macoy. Here are some of my books. Sa mga nakakalala kay Ketchup Eusebio, that's Ketchup Eusebio because that particular comic book got adapted into a short film. Nasa YouTube siya kung gusto niyo siyang panoorin, ang mascot. So yun. Okay, next slide po. Let's talk about comics writing. Okay, next slide. Let's define comics. What is comics? What makes it different? Is writing comics any different from writing fiction, short fiction? Next slide. Okay. Question: what do you guys think? Is comics literature or is it a visual art? How many say literature? How many say visual art? How many say it's a little bit of both and maybe neither? Okay, I'm with you guys. I think it should be considered its own thing. Like film isn't strictly audio or visual, it's its own thing. And comics, which puts together text and image, I think also it should be its own thing. Maybe we're not there yet. Maybe we'll get there someday. But, okay, quick story. A few weeks ago, I was lucky enough to be part of the UP National Writers Workshop. And when I was there, I was so, I couldn't get it out of my mind. Lagi kong inisip, sana may ganito kami para sa comics. Sana pwede rin namin gawin to na pag-usapan namin yung mga akda namin na comics. But currently, there's no equivalent to that kind of workshop. There's a Comiket. Comiket has its own workshop, but it's more of like a seminar where you pay for them to review your work and work with other people. Yung UP Writers Workshop, they actually pay you to bring your work there and talk about your work and have other people, like established writers, read your work and give feedback. And one of the reasons why we don't have that yet in comics is because the government, so the NCCA, National Commission on Culture and the Arts, they're the people who give grants for people to be able to pay to be able to run workshops with money coming from the government. They don't have any grants for comics writing workshops as of yet. They have money for writing workshops, they have money for visual arts, but nothing yet for anything that brings those two together. Someday, hopefully, they'll be able to do that and provide that. Para meron ding workshop para sa comics. Diba? Ang saya na. Okay, next. Since we can't consider comics as its own thing yet, personally, I think comics are closer to literature. Why? Because comics are read. You read comics. Okay, this is kind of unfair, but it's a pretty good illustration of what's the difference between watching something and reading something. So movies put together image and sound in the same way that comics put together image and text. But you watch a movie, you sit there and it goes into your head, right? When you're reading, any reader will be able to tell you, you create everything on the page in your mind. Ay, dali pa. J.R.R. Tolkien famously did not want the Lord of the Rings adapted into plays or movies. Why? Because he wanted everyone to have their own Frodo in their own mind, their own Aragorn in their own mind. So when you talk about Aragorn, you have your own one in your mind, and it's not Viggo Mortensen. Right? So that's the power of reading. Okay, next. So when you read comics, you're actually doing two kinds of reading at the same time. You're reading the text and you're reading the images, right? And sometimes those two parts can move separately. The text, on first reading, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with the images, and the images seem to be doing their own thing, and you only get the full effect of the thing when you juxtapose the two and you read them at the same time. For example, here's an excerpt from Examination by Jamie Kabatit. You can find this on the internet. You can read the whole thing if you look for it. So the text seems to be not related to the images, and the images seem to be doing the own thing, but when you read the whole thing together at the same time, they show the full meaning that the author is trying to say. So yun yung power ng comics. And that's one of the things that makes it different from storybooks, from movies, from regular literature. Okay? Okay, let's talk about the comic strip. Question, how many of you guys here who have written comics before wrote it like a full script? Okay, one or two. How many did like just an outline? Okay. Halo. Okay, how many of you have collaborated with an artist? Work with an artist or a writer separately? Puro laging it's just you. Okay, so next. So parang ganito itsura ng ginawa nyo? Yeah, same. When I'm working on my own comics, I just write the story outline and then go straight to thumbnails. So you can do that, or next you can do a full script. So I don't think there's a standard. This is the script that I sent to my collaborator for one of my graphic novels. So he wanted a full script. So here you go. You describe what's in the panels, you write down the panels, and you write down the dialogue. It's different from a screenplay, it's different from a movie script, it's its own thing. Or you can do it this way. This is how I worked with another of my collaborators. Because I'm an artist also, so I can draw the layouts and the paneling myself, and spend less time explaining things, just show him what I want it to look like. And then on the right, you have the descriptions, the dialogue, and the sound effects. So if you're comfortable drawing, it doesn't have to be good. Basta makuha lang, may ideya lang ng mga shots, yung composition ng bawat panel, you can do it this way. Okay, next. Or if you're working with an artist you really trust, or someone who is very independent and not very willing to listen to your input, you can do it this way. Just send them a story outline, tapos sila na bahala sa visuals. I know this is how, if you know Patay Kung Patay, or Death Be Damned, AJ Bernardo and Noel Pascual, this is how they work. Noel just sends AJ an outline, and bahala na si AJ. And also Stan Lee worked this way when he was doing Fantastic Four and X-Men and those stories. Okay, let's talk about paneling, but for writers. This is my personal philosophy. I think that in comics, one image is a word, one panel is a sentence, and one page is a paragraph. So as writers, I think one of the main differences in writing comics is we need to think in pages. I think the page is the basic unit of comics. And we don't think about pages when we're writing fiction, or no. But when it comes to comics, because I think that one page should be able to kind of stand on its own and have, you should have kind of an idea of what's going on that one page. It should not necessarily a whole sequence or a whole idea, but when you look at it, you should be able to kind of scan it, and it should have like something tangible that is clear in one look, sa isang tingin. Okay. So paneling matters when you're writing, because paneling will determine how much information goes on the page. Okay? So if you have, like on the left, it's one huge panel because there's so much information that needs to be put in that panel. On the right, there's so much dialogue. So you have to leave space for the artist to have that space for your dialogue on the page, and paneling will determine that. Okay? Next. Pacing is also affected by paneling. Lots of panels will slow down the page, and fewer panels will speed up the action. So if you're doing an action scene, action sequence, you want big impactful panels, fewer of them. If you're doing a long exchange of dialogue, long conversation, or something like a slow moving scene, you can add more panels. Also, the biggest thing on the page is the most important thing on the page. This is basic graphic design. And it also applies to comics. So look on the left, that's a very almost chaotic page, but because there's a clear priority shown. The colors tell you, and the size of the Batwoman character tells you that's the most important panel, and your eyes are drawn towards it, and it anchors the page, and it prevents it from being too chaotic and hard to read and hard to understand. On the right, Gon's threat is the most important thing on the page. So he gets the biggest panel. Okay? So priority. How many panels should go on a page? Rule of thumb is around 3 to 5. This is based on my preferences because I enjoy reading manga. And I think the way that manga usually tankobons usually have small pages, so you can only put so many panels on it, as opposed to like Franco-Belgian comics, which are usually bigger, so they usually have more panels. So so it'll depend on what the format that you choose, that you're using. If you're doing web comics, I mean webtoon, doesn't matter, it's just one long strip. Or if you're writing specifically only for the internet and you're scrolling, again, doesn't matter as much. But for print comics, if they're on a page, personally I go with 3 to 5 pages. That's kind of the sweet spot where you can tell, you can have a decent amount of detail per panel, but also be able to tell your story without having the page count go on too long. There are exceptions, of course. Next slide, please. There are exceptions. So if it's a really important panel, you can give it the whole page, or if you can work in more panels, if the scene demands it, or you find some way to add more panels without sacrificing the clarity of your storytelling, you can add more panels. Depende sa'yo. Okay, special note. Another unique comics thing. As much as you can, try to put a mini cliffhanger at the very last panel on your page. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to always be there, but when you can, it's a good thing to have. Why? It makes the reader want to turn the page to find out. And turning pages is the heartbeat of comics. So you want them to be eager to find out what happens next. So yeah, ako, as much as possible, I try to put small cliffhangers at the very last panel of every page, or as many pages as I can. Oh, any questions so far? What's our time? Okay. Let's talk about collaboration then. When you're working with an artist, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can do right sharing, where you're co-creators and you own everything 50-50 or 60-40 or however you decide on. Or you can do work for hire. Me, I only have experience with right sharing because I can't afford to pay my artists, number 1. And number 2, I like splitting the rights in half, because then they're as invested in the work as I am. And I want that. I want it to be as important for them as it is for me. When you do work for hire, you will own all the rights. Although this needs contracts, make sure you're always signing contracts. Ano lang naman. But you never know what's going to happen in the future. Just to be safe, always have a contract. Work for hire, you own everything, and there's a greater risk of them like flaking, disappearing. Kasi they're not as invested as if it were rights sharing. Okay, next. Where to find artists? Yung mga tao na nag-collaborate dito, may I ask? Saan nyo nahanap yung mga artists niyo? Sir, sa children's books. Okay. Kayo illustrator. So, paano yung nahanap mga writers niyo? Okay. Okay. And anyone else? Me personally, I have a very limited experience on the internet, so I'm not sure how finding collaborators goes there. But for me, it's always been face-to-face events. So I've been attending comics events since 2009. I've sat down with random co-creators and gotten to know them, become friends. commenting on other people's work. If you want to be friends with an artist for life, tell them you like their work. It's really that simple sometimes. Ano pa? Yun. Just get to know people, get to know their work, get to know their work ethic. I've always worked only with people that I kind of like personally, and it's always worked out so far. There are places to find an artist also. You can find that there are Facebook groups, there's Reddit subreddits where you can find artists, although usually it's work for hire. Medyo mas mahirap maghanap ng ride sharing then. Okay. When you're working with an artist, that's basically a relationship. That's basically a friendship that you have to maintain. You have to, and with relationships, you have to learn how to deal with other people and their personalities and how to get along with them and how to get work done. And one of the things that can help is the improv technique known as yes and. So yes and is when you're playing D&D, how many play D&D? How many people play D&D? So when you're doing D&D or when you're doing improv comedy, there's this rule called yes and. You're not allowed to say no. You say yes and. So when some people would call it kind of a compromise, some people would call it just getting along, but when there's a difference in opinion, you have to find a common ground. You have to be able to say, okay, let's try your way, and also let's do this or let's try this, right? That's a big difference from just saying no. We do it this way, or we're not doing it. Question.
What's the implications of ride sharing versus ride sharing? Does that mean the artist, like for example, to buy like that says
Co-creators.
And then it's also work for art versus illustrators.
Yes.
And then what does that imply like on the business?
On the business end, as far as I know, I think it'll depend on your contract, but kapag work for hire, wala talagang habol. Like, you own everything, and Bambi?
Yes, add ko lang. Yung royalties come to play. If you have rate sharing, if on the contract, 50-50 kayong co-creator, when the royalties come in, and hopefully they do come in, hati kayo dun sa royalties. Royalties are payment. So those are yung kinikita ng libro once the publisher breaks even with its production cost, the author will earn royalties.
Yeah, X%
So,
per
that's a
books.
percent
Yeah.
of the sales. So kung kayo ay co-creator and you are equal right sharers, 50-50 yung hati mo sa royalty. Whereas yung work for hire, isang payment lang ang illustrator.
Yeah, one-time fee.
One-time fee yung wala na.
Standard, walang royalties ang work for hire. Yun yung standard.
It depends on the illustrator or the artist, all yung preference.
Yeah.
And then that will get reflected on the
When something hits really big, like Superman, Batman, it's up to the publisher. Parang goodwill na lang ng publisher na banggitin siya as co-creator. Pero really, kapag work for hire legally, I think mahirap talagang habulin yun na ano. Unless like the rights revert, there are some conditions where the rights can revert to the creator kahit work for hires. I think that happened with Superman and some other things. Pero yun. That answer your question? Okay. Okay. So one last word of advice for when you want to make when you're making comics. The number one rule is to show up. Number one rule is to show up. Finish your comic. Don't stop tinkering at it, trying to make it perfect. Just make it, and then go to events, post it online, comment, ask for comments, ask to be shared. Just be there at the events. sell it, talk to the people sitting next to you at these events, show up. Okay? Because nothing's gonna happen if you're not there. Nothing's gonna happen. Kahit gaano kaganda yung ginawa mo, kung walang nakakita, walang mangyayari. Number 2, know your rights. You would think in this day and age na hindi na maglalakas loob ang mga unscrupulous publishers na makaisa sa mga creators, pero it still happens. You should know your rights. You should research. Kung yung nag-alok ng kontrata, maghanap kayo ng mga website na may mga sample contracts na pro-author. Because when someone offers you a contract and they write it, it's probably gonna be more beneficial to them than to you. That's just how it is. Rule number 3, be nice. I don't know about online so much, but in traditional publishing, it's all about relationships, as much as talent, sometimes even more. So you have 2 of the nicest comics creators here. There's a reason that we're here. We show up and we're nice. Kaya kami nandito. Kaya kami na-invite sa mga kwan. So yun. Tapos number 4, make great comics din yan. So, any questions? Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then I'm hiring an author to write about it since it's not my experience.
Okay.
So, does it also apply to the hiring illustrators if I'm hiring a writer?
So it depends on your contract, your deal with the writer. If they're a ghost writer and you're doing work for hire, sa'yo pa rin yung rights. If they're a collaborator, co-writer, and then the rights shared yun. So nasa usapan nyo pa rin yun. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Good question. There are some stories that work better as novels. Some stories work better as movies. Some stories. How do you know if a story will work as comics? Ako personally, I think ang strength ng comics is if the story has a strong visual element na medyo mahirap i-describe in words. So imagine something like World War II. I think there have been a lot of novels written about World War II. So, well, it depends. Ano ba yung ideya mo na baka hindi pa, baka di ka pa willing i-share, okay lang po, hindi. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. That's cool. Mm. Medyo pagod na yung mga sundalo. Okay. 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 I think kung gusto mo siyang gawing comics, it would be because gusto mong i-emphasize yung visual element niya. So maybe you have an artist whose style you really like na gusto mo siya yung mag-drawing ng kwento, o gusto mo i-emphasize yung images na yung very visual yung kwento mo, nakataling gano'n, may mga secrets sa loob ng pagkain. So kung gusto mo i-emphasize yung visual elements, I think comics would be a good choice. But that kind of story I think would work with any medium. Bambi, you're raising your hand?
And if I can add, the good thing about comics actually, kahit anong topic, kahit anong genre, pwede sa many different kinds of comics. It's just that kasi yung sa local, medyo parang naging fledgling, parang nag-ano tayo eh, konti pa lang yung genre, kasi parang hindi pa natin masyadong na-explore. But if you go to like France and Japan, like lahat manga, diba? Even instructional videos, instructional anything, manga sila, diba? So comics also can be anything,
Yeah.
can be any genre. So kagaya ng nasabi ni Macoy, parang we were describing what was happening to your lolo, parang very visual. Pwede siyang comics. Pero for me as a writer, when do I know when to mix an idea, an essay, or a comic, or a children's book, or ano? Para kasing, for me, as I write, instinctive siya, na parang gano'n na, ay, ito maganda tong comics. Ito, I can't explain, sorry. Pero ano siya eh, as you go along, you will get it in your mind na, mas maganda to as a novel. Mas maganda to as a comic. Parang, yun nga, parang it will come out once you write it, as no what kind of media it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
So just start to write. Just start to write. Yes. Parang, basta simula.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
And afterwards, you will see kung saan siya bagay.
Yeah. Make it exist first, and then choose later. Okay, any other questions?
We have time for one more question.
Yes, sir.
Question lang. Are there publishers who open submissions?
Occasionally, meron, yeah. Yeah.
You will see it on their Facebook page. Usually, Anino
Mhm.
will post na we're looking for like this, like that. Or Miket will post na you can submit for pick-off, or you can, they will put, if it's open for, like, they will put it on their socials. But, pwede mo din silang i-code email.
Yeah, they're always looking for new stuff.
They're always
Yeah.
looking for stuff, so.
Yun, if you have a project, even if it's not finished yet, I think usually parang they need just a few pages to show that you're actually working on it, and parang mag-gauge nila kung okay yung trabaho mo. So, yun, pwede nyo i-pitch. O pwede nyo i-diretso na online. I mean, okay? So,
Thank you so much. Sorry, mali ito. So before we move on to the next half of our workshop, we just have a couple of announcements. As mentioned earlier, today is the student walkout to show solidarity. Sir Francis will give us a couple of details on how that'll go. So, this is our program coordinator, Sir Francis Saliana.
Good afternoon. So first, thank you for coming. No? And my assignment from CAM is to inform you about what will happen during the student walkout. So probably you've seen many Ateneans wearing black because now is Black Friday protest because of the corruptions, and of course this has also to do with the commemoration of martial law. No? And so at 2 p.m. there probably will be a signal, and this is completely student-led. And to show our solidarity, we can just go outside. The students and members of the Ateneo community will convene in the Red Brick Road. And so we go there and we join the students, join the Ateneo community. But I hope that after maybe 15 minutes, so probably they will walk because it's a walk out, and probably there will be speeches. We can listen probably to a few speeches if there are, but I hope that after 15 minutes we can go back to this venue. No? And again, that's to show our solidarity. But what we are learning in this workshop is, of course, can be a venue for our own activism. No? So so it's important also for us to learn these things. So I hope that's fine. So we just wait around 2-ish. There will be a signal. I don't know what that will be, but we will know when it's time to walk out. So the Red Brick Road is just outside this building anyway. Just look for the red bricks. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And one last, while we're waiting for, so we'll do our schedule. We'll be back here at about 2:15. Please reconvene at NGF conference room. But in the meantime, there's also titles by our authors outside via Komiks, so you can browse their titles while waiting for their signal. So again, the walkout begins in 15 minutes, and then after 15 minutes, we'll reconvene here in our conference room. As mentioned earlier, Sir Macoy is the author for School Run and Aswang High. These titles are available outside. School Run is illustrated by R.D. Aquino, and Aswang High is illustrated by Saiven Deville. And Miss Bambi is the author for Cautionary Tales from a Filipino Childhood, as well as Doobie-Doo Asks, and she also co-wrote Doobie-Doo What You Up To, which is a sequel which was co-written by Doobie himself. So please browse through the titles. There are browsing copies available. And then, yes, let's all join the Ateneo community in showing solidarity for our student-led initiatives. Okay, thank you. Again, back here by 2:15. So, okay. Oh, there are also snacks in our faculty lounge. There was lunch available. There's also free-flowing coffee. If you'd like it, it's just there, right across the hall. So, yes. Thank you.